I'm Dustin Good. I'm a product specialist with Roland Canada, and we're here to show off some new gear for you guys.
So today we'll see at least 4 products. Basically, we'll talk about the new stuff that came out really like the 8th of the 8th.
The 8th of the 8th, the 808, August 8th.
So it will be
2017.
the TR08 will be the first one we'll talk. Then we'll go on to the SH01A, and then we'll go to the SE2 with Studio Electronics, and we'll finish with the DJ stuff. We have today what's a DJ 808 and the DJ 202.
All right, here we are.
So I got to be honest. I was an owner of a Studio Electronics synthesizer for more than 10 years.
Which one?
I had the SE1, the original SE1, which was basically a let's say Mini Moog clone.
Yes,
that would be the best way to explain what it is. I got rid of it, and I'm really curious to see how this one compares. I know it's not made to mimic the SE1.
Not necessarily,
no. But I know it's Studio Electronics. Well, tell us about the partnership. How do you call it? It's part of the design.
So this is the first in what we're calling the Boutique Designer Series.
Pretty cool.
So this is where we've worked in partnership with Studio Electronics to design this new, which is all analog signal path. It's got some digital components to it, but all analog signal path, discrete analog. So that you're talking about Studio Electronics, like their history working with mini Moogs and things like that. Yeah. They became experts at analog circuit design, right? So they're known for their oscillators sounding huge, sounding deep, their filters sounding really rich and powerful. So they've been doing this for over 30 years now. Yeah. You know, so I believe it was it was a meeting at a trade show, and just people throwing ideas back and forth, and then over the course of a year or two, Studio Electronics started designing the core of this, and with the partnership, it's now shrunk down to this size. And
it's pretty small and amazing to be an analog synth that size. Yeah. Now, I read about the fact that it doesn't work on batteries.
It does not work on batteries, and
there's a reason because of the components itself.
Yeah, it runs off of. We're just using a PSB1U, which is just a negative tip 9-volt, 2-amp power supply. So that's the same kind of thing that a guitar pedal would use, to make sure it has enough current. So it's a very common kind of power, but that kind of analog circuit really needs that headroom, that power to open up, to really run, whereas most digital stuff runs off of 5 volts in and 3.3 volts out.
But this really needs that to get that analog, that headroom.
So what's different about this one is that everything you came out, well, not everything, but most of the machine that came out of the Boutique series have been made to do a more modern version of an existing Roland device or a vintage Roland device. Like this one does not aim for that.
No, this is something brand new. It is inspired by and a continuation of the SE1 and the SE1X that Studio Electronics had been making for the past 15, 20 years, but it's new. They really reworked a lot of stuff, like the envelopes are different. They're snappier, but it's laid out like a traditional American style synthesizer.
Yeah, it is what we usually expect from something like the Moog, made in the first place.
Exactly, and we've got
3 oscillators.
We've got emphasis, cutoff, contour.
So it's a 3 oscillator analog synth, 24 dB ladder filter, dual gain stage VCA, dual gain stage mixers. So you can really push it, and it really gets a nice kind of saturated tone. And then we've got a LFO that's clockable to MIDI clock or the internal clock, so you can actually do different divisions of LFO cycle. And then it also has analog voiced digital delay that can also be clocked. So the delay is clockable as well.
Okay, cool.
So the delay sounds unique. It's not just a standard kind of digital delay. It actually sounds quite rich. It's more like an echo.
Let's
take a listen.
Yeah.
So just starting from scratch.
One thing about this, excuse me, is that you actually have an incredible amount of presets in memory. So you have 4 banks, 3 banks of presets with 128 in each. So I got A, 1 through 128. and I can either do this numerically. I can go to 23. Hello. You've got a lot of interesting. This is even without a sequencer. With the LFOs, you can make it do some pretty interesting stuff. I go to number 54.
So that's not even the arpeggiator. It's really
Nope,
just
that's just a patch kind of by itself. So tons of really powerful.
It has its own sound.
So you see, that's that kind of the decay and the degradation on the delay is more voice like an analog delay, right? But you've also got 128 user slots where you can save your own sounds.
Okay.
And for the synth heads and the people who want to program their own stuff, you just press manual and then you're live. So everything is live. So it's like you turned on an analog synthesizer. What's up here is what's right. So that's what we've got right now. So I'm going to start from just one oscillator, right? So we've got our mixer. Bring it up. So the range on this is huge. I mean, I'm talking.
Yeah.
And it's in tune. It's in tune the whole way, right?
Okay,
so
yeah.
this is temperature compensated. It runs a tuning procedure every time you turn it on. So
Okay, cool.
all analog, but you don't have to worry about it being out of tune in any range. So you've got your usual suspect waveforms for a classical synth here. Got a triangle, and your sharp tooth, tri-saw. You've got your sawtooth, and you've got 3 fixed pulse width waves. So you've got close to a square wave, a little bit of a thinner pulse, and even so the oscillators are almost all identical, except for number 3, which so I can bring in.
We hear the delay.
So when you bring in a second oscillator, you can actually hear that kind of drift, and you can fine tune that to get that huge sound.
Yeah.
Bringing in oscillator 3, they can all be tuned to different octaves as well. Right, so this is all going into the mixer through a 24 dB analog low pass filter, which is
And it's only low pass? You can?
yeah,
Okay.
it's only low pass.
This is classic. Sounds nice.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And the filter, also, a lot of people are asking about this, the filter does self-resonate, and it can be used as its own.
it becomes a sine wave.
So when you start adding key tracking to the filter, it'll tune. You can add a bit of delay to that. Then you've got glide, you've got a glide circuit, 2 different circuits. The LFO can be used as a bit of a modulation on either the filter or the oscillators. And you've also got feedback and noise on this. So really nice analog white noise. Well, that's kind of cool. Then you got this feedback circuit, which will feedback by itself.
So, tell me more about the feedback. I'm curious.
Yeah. So
What does it actually do? I understand what the word feedback. It takes what and feeds it where?
it feeds the output of the mixer back into the mixer.
Okay.
So it's this kind of feedback loop. So by itself, it's
It's like having, like putting a microphone in front of a speaker. It's just
Yeah.
feeding back, and
Okay.
it'll oscillate by itself. But if I bring in, if I start to introduce a bit of feedback,
to a patch, you get kind of a distortion kind of sound. It gets really gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crank there.
The problem with distortion and feedback is you can actually go very, really loud.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So after that, we have the LFO, which is syncable. I'll show you that when we do some sequencing, and that's a really big part of this is the sequencer. You know, there's a ton of features on this, like the cross modulations. I won't go too deep into them, but things like modulation from the oscillator 2 to the filter cutoff. So you can do things like, right? Kind of like more wacky sounds like that. You can do pulse width modulation from oscillator 3 to the other 2, so you get this really cool kind of like gnarly.
Yeah. You don't need a distortion pedal with this. You could, but you don't need it.
Right, so a lot of sounds that are more kind of modern, like, and then you can go into straight up FM territory with it if you really want to. You can do some actually really impressive. Like kind of glassy FM kind of sounds.
The envelope seems to be very snappy.
Yeah.
The envelope seems to be...
Yeah. They're extremely... I think it's 2 milliseconds.
That's it. Pretty efficient. Pretty cool.
So again, you don't expect to get those kind of glassy FM sounds out of like a thick analog synth. You know?
Yeah, well... Pretty cool.
Yeah, and at any point, I can just go and pull up a preset.
That's it.
And what's awesome for people who are learning or want to, modify a preset, if you change a setting and you like it, you can actually compare it to the original.
Okay, there's a compare button. Okay, you can compare and switch between the two. Pretty cool.
And all the modulations, you can set them to a mod wheel or pitch bend, all that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said arpeggiator?
A sequencer.
16-step
sequencer, which is incredibly powerful. It's by far the most powerful sequencer so far in the boutique series.
Okay.
So what we can do is I can just pull up a sequence, and what you'll see is that we have 128, and it'll also save a patch per sequence, right? So it's great for when you're playing live, you want to switch up a sequence, and it'll actually recall your sound at the same time. So, there's 16 steps. So if I go to the next sequence, right, it's actually pulling up
the sound and the pattern.
We've got some wacky kind of random sequences in there. If I go back to 8, it's got a sound behind it. I can go in and choose a different sound anytime.
Okay, so they can be separate, but it can be saved together.
Yeah, totally. Or I can go manual. There's the sound that we just made, right? This is all still live. But I'll take that back and... That's a good sound. There you go. So now that we've got the sequence going, it's really easy to use. I'll just clear this one out really quickly. So it's 16 steps, and programming it is extremely simple. What we can do is program it straight from any keyboard, MIDI keyboard, this K25M that we have plugged in. I can program it from the keys like this. So I just hold down a step, add a C, keep going, choose the steps I want.
So you don't need to enter the rest, you just press on the keys.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to go through the whole thing. have that. But I can also edit it in real time via the selector here.
Okay, more like a step sequencer.
Exactly.
Classic style.
Yeah. Right? And some of the really exciting things that we've added on this is individual gate time per step.
Per step, okay.
So you've got a master gate time. So if I take away all my decay there, add a little bit, I can essentially go through and tighten up any notes I want.
Okay. Pretty cool.
Right, and then you've got individual glide per step as well.
Okay, per
So
step.
if I want to glide between these, I could just turn it up. Right, so it's only there.
Okay.
And then most exciting is we have performance locks. So different parameters can be changed per step, any of these. So I could actually change the filter maybe here and close it back here.
Oh, that
Right? Close it back down there. And then even do stuff like this, right? Well, I could change the octave of different steps per
So what are the values that can be actually...
Anything.
Anything. Wow.
anything. Even delay. So if I have this delay going, and this would be a good time to show that the delay is tempo syncable as is the LFO. So if I want to add the delay, make sure it's synced to tempo, I can easily find like 16th notes, quarter notes, or in between. Like that. And then I could sequence this. Right? So, yeah, you can sequence absolutely anything. You know?
Pretty cool.
And you can get really creative with that. Right?
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
imagine.
I'm surprised how much powerful the sequencer is.
Yeah, and you've got your basic sequencer stuff. You've got, your resolution, 16th notes, 8th notes, quarters, any of those for triplets as well. You've got shuffle, you've got direction, so you can go backwards, forwards,
yeah,
random,
these
and it
things.
saves all these per preset. And then
Pretty
it can sync its own, it can be synced to itself or external. Or, again, for the analog guys, it's got CV, gate, and VCF CV input, so that'll go to the filter. And trigger in and out, so it can sync and it can be synced via analog clock.
Pretty cool.
And it also has an external input, so you can process drums, you can process any sounds you want through the filter, through all the effects. So, external input mixed with oscillators or external input with noise and feedback, you can get some pretty insane stuff going. And with the whole parameter sequencing, I mean, you can really push this thing to do some kind of crazy stuff. Let's see here. I'll pull up, I think this might be the one. Yeah, so it is a monophonic synth, right? But since we have 3 oscillators, you can tune them all differently, right? So here I've tuned all the oscillators to a different note, right? So I have a major chord. That sounds nice. Problem with that is, it's kind of hard to play a whole track when it's all a major chord, So what you can do is you can use the sequencer to parameter lock tuning differences, right? So if I play this, minor, minor, major, major, right? So we've got ourselves a pretty nice...
So you basically change the tuning on the steps.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's just one example of really kind of creative things you can do with it.
Pretty cool.
And
Sounds
it's
good.
it sounds really deep, and it's got tons of features. Hard sync. It's got envelope for the pitch of oscillator 2. You can do hard sync sounds.
I feel that for the devices we talked today, you could take a lot more time explaining them.
Yes.
Every time you were kind of cutting short.
Yeah.
Because we want to go through the other thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think you prepared something we can play the three at the same
Sure.
time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then after we'll switch to the
Yeah.
DJ.
We'll see where all our sounds are at now. Let's see, because they're all synced up. You know,
Oh.
already synced up just via MIDI and clock here. But I think I have a couple things that'll work. This will actually work well. I think I have a bass line that'll work well with this. Let's see here. 6, 5. So I'm just recalling some preset sounds here. And see, I got to take it out of chord mode here. So I'm just going to use this live, right? I'm just going to make whatever sound I want on the fly. Yeah. Yeah, let's go here and choose a different pattern. That'll work. So these are synced up, and now I can get the TR8 in the mix as the master clock, right? So let's have a little jam with what we got going here. Because you can go and you can edit any of these sounds while this is running, right? synced up and tweak it on the fly. And have
I know we can stop the camera and just play for a couple of hours now.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for the 909 day now.
Yeah.
Soon, very
Coming
soon.
soon. Yeah.
So, well, I want to thank you
Yeah,
for your
thank you.
time. I want to thank Roland Canada for taking the time to come here. And I hope you liked the video, you liked the live feed. If you want more of them, just write to us, Musitechnic. We're always interested in showing you new stuff. And, well, see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Musitechnic.
Bye.